My name is Kelly Brown. It's just the three of us in the family, my parents and me. Usually, I relish my mother's homemade cooking, but since today is my father's birthday, we decided to dine at a fancy hotel for a change and went out. However, we ran into some unpleasant people there. The food at a luxury hotel really is delicious, isn't it? Yes, how often in life do we get to eat in such a place? We have to go all out for Dad's birthday, don't we? After all, you always work so hard for us. It was supposed to be a pleasant meal. Hey, aren't those people next to us poor? Suddenly, such a voice could be heard. I looked around, wondering whom they could be talking about, but there didn't seem to be anyone that poor around. Poor people coming here is absolutely out of place. Looking towards the direction of the voice, I saw a woman and a man with unpleasant personalities. They were looking at us and laughing. I thought, they are talking about us. Have you noticed? Places like this are meant for elites like us. It's annoying, isn't it? It makes our meal taste worse. I thought. Then leave. Dining like this is all about manners, isn't it? It's infuriating when people who don't know manners are around. Indeed, she is right. But it's not about how to use forks and knives. It's about people who speak ill of others and laugh. Even a young person like me understands that. Yet, they seem to have no clue. Hey, look at that girl's clothes. What? Does she think she's dressed fashionably? She doesn't realize how unsuitable her clothes are. They might be expensive, but the clothes are crying. It can't be helped. She must be a poor country girl. Trying to date a boyfriend like me, an elite banker, is impossible. Of course, to date someone like me, an elite banker, you need to be a capable, beautiful woman with class like you. Exactly. The two looked at us, wanting to boast about how capable they were. But would truly capable people talk down to others? I wonder if it's some sort of anniversary for those people. I thought. It's my father's birthday, what about it? I was getting increasingly annoyed and glared at the two. Glaring at people during a meal, you really are a mountain ape, aren't you? Stop it. If you say too much, you might get tangled up with a monkey. Monkeys are vicious these days. I thought. This is infuriating. It's my dear father's birthday celebration. Kelly, let it go. The lower someone's intelligence level, the more they talk about others like that. They are just pitiable people who don't realize their own foolishness. That's right. Smart people don't talk like that. Exactly, today is your father's birthday. We should be thankful that our always hardworking dad was born, not be swayed by foolish words. Thank you. But such expensive food feels a bit wasteful. Not at all. I'm grateful that you've stayed healthy and made it through another year. Thanks to your hard work, we get to eat such delicious food. In our family, we splurge only on Dad's birthday. I'd like to ask who's the most important, but it seems our family exists because of our kind father. Having a child like me is because of Dad, and that's okay. But while we were having that conversation, those people were still laughing. Hey, it's nice that their family gets along, but just because it's a birthday doesn't mean it should be this special, right? We eat this kind of meal often, but it feels less special, don't you think? Maybe we should occasionally eat something humble like them. Then maybe we could appreciate it as much as they do. But that wouldn't quite suit us elites, would it? That's true. I wonder what they usually eat. I suppose it's something like beans or bread. Only cheap stuff, right? I thought. Don't make fun of beans. Whether it's beans or bread, it's delicious enough, but they're ridiculing it too much. I thought. Apologize to the producers. Also, doesn't it smell a bit poor here? Huh? Do you smell something? Yes, it's a very poor smell. A poor smell. That's troubling. As an elite, I can't understand such smells. Ah, now that you mention it, that's true. I come from an elite family, and I'm an elite myself. Now that you've pointed it out, I realize I wouldn't understand what being poor is like. But somehow, I just feel it. What does a poor smell even smell like? It's a difficult metaphor. When I look at those people, that's what I think. Well, that's certainly true. I mean, look at that mother. That ring, it might be supposed to be a diamond. Ah, it's just a big piece of glass. That's what I thought too. It must be imitation, right? They come to a place like this and try hard by wearing it. But it's imitation. And it's not even glass. You can tell by the way it shines, it's different right away. Mother's hand stopped. Of course, she would be angry. After all, my mother loves jewels. Being called an imitation is an insult. Seeing my mother like that, my father was about to stand up. But my mother stopped him. Don't stoop to their level. I'm fine. There's no point in dealing with ignorant people. Ah, yes. Ah, yes. But it seems that my father is quite angry. Even though he is usually gentle, he ended up stabbing his fork into his plate. Stop the pointless chatter. Even though I think this, it doesn't reach them, and they continue to mock us while sipping champagne and enjoying their delicious meal. I thought, it's a pity that such people get to eat this food. Just when I thought that, my father said, it's a pity that such people get to eat this food. Oh, like father, like daughter. We were thinking the same thing. Then, my mother, who found it hilarious, desperately tried to hold back her laughter. You're too funny. But, it's really what I think, right? Of course, I think so. It's impossible not to. Hey. Those poor people are incredibly rude. Ah, that's true. As he said that, the man stood up with a champagne glass in his hand. Then he stood next to my father and tilted the champagne glass over my father's head. Poor families should disappear. Instinctively, both my mother and I screamed. I immediately handed a napkin to my father, but my mother reacted differently. What are you doing? I was just giving him some champagne to drink. I can tolerate verbal attacks, but this is unforgivable. If you don't like it, just leave. Which bank do you work for? You keep saying you're an elite banker, but it must be some unknown regional bank, isn't it? Oh, don't joke, lady. He's from Metropolitan Bank. Oh, Metropolitan Bank. I can't believe people like you are part of such a major bank. You're pretending to know, but a poor person like you wouldn't have any connection with such a bank, would you? Think whatever you want, but you'll regret this. I wonder what I'm going to regret. When my mother smirked, the manager came rushing over. He apologized desperately to my mother and asked my father if he was all right. Wow, you're so submissive to poor people. We're having a bad experience here too. Let's go home. I can't bring myself to eat in a place with people like this. Let's reschedule for another day. That's right. We were supposed to have a surprise cake for my father, but it seems we won't be able to have it today. Hehe. Now that the poor people are gone, let's eat in peace. I could hear the pleased voice of the woman from behind. The next day. Kelly, we're going to Metropolitan Bank. Drive me there. Huh? Metropolitan. Wasn't the banker from yesterday from Metropolitan Bank? Yes. That's why we're going. What are you planning to do? Closing my account. It seems my mother's anger from yesterday has not subsided. My mother runs a major company that everyone wants to work for. I work there as a driver and my mother's secretary, and my kind father works as the vice president. At home, they are gentle, but once they start working, my mother becomes a different person. My father is friendly and always smiling, but my mother is very strict and shows no mercy in her work. So, when my mother says she's going to Metropolitan Bank, I sense a storm brewing. Upon arrival, call the manager, please. Without taking a number, she said to a female employee. You need to take a number. Never mind that. Call the manager. The teller, intimidated by my mother's commanding presence, said, Please wait. And ran to the back to speak to the manager. The manager's face clouded, but as soon as he saw my mother, he came running. President, what can I do for you today? The word President caused the other customers to turn and look puzzled. Of course, they would, as both my mother and I were in work clothes. People who know my mother would recognize her immediately, but those who don't might think, What's with this old lady? She looks like a worker or something. However, this is my mother's trademark. Please cancel the accounts for 10,000 of our employees. Excuse me? Please come inside for a moment. Hearing about the cancellation of 10,000 accounts would certainly cause a stir and panic. But my mother's company has its payroll deposited directly into a major city bank because it's cheaper in terms of transaction fees. I remember my mother once said, I'll open accounts for 10,000 employees, so make the fees cheaper. Classic her. But wouldn't changing banks increase the fees? She must be aware of that, but she seemed angry enough not to care. Inside, there was a VIP reception room. Leather sofas were placed around, and the room was decorated with an expensive-looking vase, fresh flowers, and paintings that were probably replicas. As we sat on the sofa, coffee was quickly prepared and a delicious-looking cake was brought out, but my mother didn't even glance at it. I thought, It looks tasty, too bad the mood isn't right for eating. The manager sat down in front of my mother and started. Thank you for coming today. Save your greetings. Yes. So, I said I want to cancel the accounts for 10,000 employees. And the payroll deposits, what will happen with those? We'll contract with another bank. But doing so, I believe the fees will increase. The bank obviously wants to keep the business. Mentioning the fees is natural. I know that. We've already made arrangements. I thought. That was quick. I recall she was on the phone after we got home yesterday. Was that what it was about? You've made arrangements? Yes, we've contracted with another bank that offers even lower fees. Thanks to your stupid employee, our company has managed to save even more. With that, my mother smirked. But our bank offers exceptional fees, and it's hard to imagine someone offering lower. That's for you to figure out with corporate effort. Your company has branches overseas. Are you switching to a bank that has overseas branches? Of course. I see. So, hurry up with the cancellation. Yes, I understand, but could you please explain a bit more? What is there to explain about a cancellation? Why did you suddenly decide to cancel? We've had a long relationship with your company. Why now this? You want to know? Yes, I can't imagine someone like you making such a decision without serious reasons. Then, my mother took a deep breath and began explaining what happened yesterday. Yesterday was my husband's birthday. A birthday. Congratulations. We thought we'd enjoy a dinner at a high-end hotel as a family. That's very nice. However, we met one of your employees there. That employee called us poor. What? To you? I don't care that we were called poor. But he insulted my daughter, and on top of that, he poured champagne on my husband's head and laughed saying, poor families should disappear. Can such disrespect be tolerated? That is. Can you imagine how angry that made us feel? That is indeed valid. But, are you sure it was an employee from our bank? Yes. He boasted about being an elite banker. When asked which bank, he said the major city bank. Moreover, he told me, a bank like ours has no ties with poor people like you. That is. Then it's time to sever those ties. I am terribly sorry. Could you tell me the name of this person? I don't know his name, nor do I want to. I would like to call him here to apologize. I'm not here to complain. I came here to tell you to cancel our accounts. Of course. The cancellation process is ongoing, but with 10,000 accounts, it will take some time. I hoped we could use this time to let him apologize. Fine. I don't know his name. But my mother then described in detail what the man looked like yesterday. It's impressive how well she remembers, but perhaps it's that level of observation that allows her to run such a large company successfully. The manager noted down the features described by my mother, excused himself, and stepped outside the door. He soon returned with 3 men. Is the man from yesterday among these 3? When the manager said that, a man spoke up. You, from yesterday. Why is that old lady here again? A bank employee, especially one from the Metropolitan Major Bank, should not be calling a customer in the VIP reception room. Old lady. I thought. This guy is a real idiot. That remark ended up revealing the identity of the man from yesterday. Scott. It was you. Both of you, please go back. As the manager said that, the 2 went back. This person is an elite at this bank? Someone who uses words like old lady to a customer? I'm terribly sorry. What are you, acting all high and mighty? Why is a poor family like yours even here? Came to taste the flavor of wealth a bit? You. Stop saying rude things. They are important clients. Manager, don't be fooled. These people are not wealthy at all, they're just poor. Even yesterday, they were at a fancy restaurant, only because it was her husband's birthday dinner. If they were wealthy, they wouldn't need to come out specifically for an anniversary, right? They should be able to come to such places regularly. Hey. You. In fact, her husband was amazed to have a meal at such a place, wondering how often in life one could do that. Clearly, they are poor. Hey. Stop that. Do you see now, manager? This is the true nature of this man. Do you think we can keep an important corporate account at a bank where such a man works? You are absolutely right. It's true, but having to close 10,000 accounts. Honestly, if we lose all those accounts, it would be a significant blow to our bank. It would really be a disaster. So, please let me make him apologize properly and reconsider. Impossible. You think it's okay to just endure having champagne poured over my husband's head? Would you endure it if it were done to your wife, manager? What's the big deal, it's just champagne. You don't usually get to drink it, so I was doing you a favor. You should be thankful. Do you even realize who I am? I apologize. Scott is indeed a capable employee. However, since his main duty is external affairs, he isn't aware of internal matters. You don't know internal matters? My employees are well versed in matters outside their immediate responsibilities. We train all our staff to avoid such issues. Generally, if you don't remember a customer's face, considering you never know whom you might meet or where, you should maintain a courteous demeanor. Isn't it extreme ignorance? Or maybe your head isn't quite up to par. What? I graduated from a prestigious university, I am an elite. You have no right to talk to me like that. Yes, an elite graduate, but that's only up to today. What do you mean? Probably, by tomorrow, you'll be wandering the streets, or have fallen off the elite path and be on a downward spiral. Why? Scott, the customer is right. Manager, what's gotten into you, taking this old lady's words seriously? I'm not just taking her word for it. It's the truth. Why? This is the president of Brown Corporation. Next to her is her daughter and secretary. Huh, Brown Corporation, that Brown? Yes, that Brown. No way, so, the person with her yesterday was my husband, the vice president. Vice president. You have committed a great disrespect towards the Brown family. I'm terribly sorry. Scott then sat down and apologized. But my mother did not forgive him. An apology now is too late. You should have thought of that while at the fancy hotel. How foolish of you. But that's just who you are. And yes, you said my ring was imitation, didn't you? Look, I'm wearing it today too. Take a good look. Do you think it's imitation? It seems she was still holding a grudge from yesterday's jewelry insult incident. Scott apologized again. What do you mean? This person said my ring was glass. I don't wear fakes. He said it shines differently. It's a 20-carat top-quality diamond. I wonder, what kind of shine does he think a real one has? I'd like him to teach me. I apologize. Yesterday, I was with my girlfriend and wanted to show off, so I said those things. Please forgive my momentary lapse. President, Scott is reflecting on his actions. Please forgive him. Reflecting, you say? Do you think everything is forgiven just because he's reflecting? Continue the contract because he's reflecting? Seal a deal because of that? Do you think that works in corporate dealings? Indeed, that's right. If such things were permissible, work between representatives would be easier. But that's not how business works. In other words, it's not that easy. Please, let's work something out. Manager, it's because you are so lenient that this man behaves this way. Do you understand that it's your responsibility as a supervisor if you let your employees think they're elites and scoff at customers? You are absolutely right. If our company closes 10,000 accounts, wouldn't that endanger not only this man but also your position, manager? I recognize your spirit to save your subordinate, but you should think about yourself as well. Ah, indeed. What, manager? That is correct. It seems the manager had not thought that far ahead. Nevertheless, unable to yell. It's your fault. Right there, the manager, with a pale face, was desperately apologizing and pleading to withdraw the cancellation. We will not withdraw. We have already contracted with another bank, and even if each account is just 1 cent cheaper, we save $1,000 a month. What do you think happens if it's 3 cents cheaper? That's a $3,000 cost reduction. Scott, I thank you. Your rudeness has led to us saving expenses. Sometimes disrespect can indeed benefit the customer. So no matter how much I apologize, you won't forgive me, right? That's right. I have no intention of forgiving you. After what you've done. Then, apologizing is just a loss. What did you say? I mean, here I am, an elite, even apologizing, and you're still acting all high and mighty. I admit you were not poor, but I really don't understand why I have to go this far for you. Scott, enough already. Manager, whatever we do, the cancellation will happen. Once the cancellation process is complete, they won't be our clients anymore. There's no need to keep humbling ourselves. It's that attitude of yours that caused this mess in the first place. Your actions are putting our bank in a serious situation. Manager, what are you talking about? We are a major city bank. The disappearance of 10,000 accounts is not a big deal. Let's think bigger. Idiot. If the president hears of this, both your head and mine are on the line. Don't you understand? That's not true. Maybe you'll be fired because you're management, but I'm protected by the union. Relax. Ah, I regret apologizing now. Scott, you bastard. What a commendable subordinate you have. Because of you, I am. You're fired, huh? But that's none of my concern. You're the manager, after all, the ultimate responsibility is yours. At that moment, the door was knocked and a female employee came in. Manager, the cancellation of the 10,000 accounts is complete. Ah, it's done. I see, it's done, good job. Saying this, he collapsed into a chair. So, Scott, right? I'm well acquainted with the president, and I'll make sure to inform him well about you. How a terrible employee like you exists in his bank. What? So, you should worry about your own job more than the manager's. No matter what, I will make sure you are fired. No way. After saying that, Mother laughed loudly and left the room. From beyond the closed door, the manager's shouts and Scott's cries of despair could be heard. Following that, the cancellation of 10,000 accounts caused a huge uproar, potentially leading the bank to bankruptcy. The president came multiple times asking to renew the contract, but Mother refused, stating she couldn't trust her employees' money with a bank that employed men like Scott. However, she promised to help in other ways in consideration of the president, and in return, she ensured Scott's disciplinary dismissal. Thanks to that, Scott was ousted from the bank, and the incident became so significant it made the news and sparked a major reaction online. As a result, Scott struggled to find re-employment. Not even an unknown consumer finance company would hire him, I heard. Now, he's buried in day labor in Brooklyn's Skid Row. After canceling 10,000 accounts, Mother went straight to another city bank to set up new accounts. Of course, not all employees had accounts, but Mother had them set up immediately. Although there were complaints from the employees initially, once the high-end hotel dinner incident came to light and all employees learned of it, the president's actions to protect their pride were highly praised. And just like that, any complaints against the president quickly disappeared. Moreover, the fact that she acted as a wife outraged by the treatment of her beloved husband also garnered high praise. Amazing, Mom. What is? Your article on social media, it's getting a tremendous number of likes. Really? I wonder who's liking it. It's over 10,000, so it's not just from our employees. I see, when I write about your father, it really gets likes. Your father is popular. Maybe I should consider merchandising him. What? Unsure whether she was serious or joking, Mother was laughing. But later, she really did start merchandising, creating goods that sold incredibly well. Watching my mother, who is always keen on turning everything into a business opportunity and converting anything into money while protecting her family and her employees, I wonder if I can ever become a president like her. Seeing such a steadfast mother, I'm proud to be her daughter and determined that one day, I will surpass her.
My name is Ava. With just a slight change in climate, my rural home becomes infested with insects. Every year, I put my heart and soul into pest control. I am a 34-year-old housewife who has become nothing less than a hunter. Once upon a time, bugs are scary, ew! I used to say such things without any embarrassment, but once I passed 30 years old, I started swatting them with a poker face. Indeed, I have become quite tough. Today, I'd like to tell you a story about how I punished my younger sister who fell in love with my husband. This happened a few years back when I was still in my 20s. A junior high school reunion was held for the first time in many years, and I reconnected with my childhood friend Josh, who used to live in my neighborhood. In the early days of elementary school, my sister Emily, who is 2 years younger than me, Josh and I used to play together a lot. But then, playing with girls is embarrassing. As this typical boy sentiment grew stronger, Josh distanced himself from us. In junior high school, Josh's family moved away, and we became not keep in touch. So, when we spoke at the reunion, I was really nervous. However, being an adult comes with a strong ally. Yes, alcohol. I love you, alcohol. Josh, whose tongue was loosened by the power of alcohol, and I, who was emboldened by the same power, had a lively conversation that was hard to believe after such a long time apart. We went to the second and third parties, just the two of us, and when it was time to say goodbye, Josh said, "I used to like you when we were kids, and it seems like I can still like you as an adult." What's that about? While replying, "So, shall we date?" With this light-hearted exchange, our relationship began. At a later date, a sober Josh said, "No man, I said too much. Embarrassing. Am I cheesy? Who the hell do I think I am?" As he was wallowing on the floor asking himself these questions, it goes without saying that I was laughing my head off watching him. It's kind of fun when the person you like is embarrassed to the point of crying and you're the cause of it. I feel bad for him though. Then everything fell into place and we decided to get married. We visited each other's homes and finished the greetings for the cohabitation and marriage we planned to start in half a year. The plan was to live together before marriage and confirm each other's lifestyle. We were childhood friends, so our parents knew each other's faces. No problem at all. Permission granted easily. It was supposed to end there, but a problem arose at my house, of all places. It happened when Josh came to greet my family and we were having a meal together. "I'm home!" With a deflated voice, my sister came back from her workplace. As soon as she saw Josh sitting at the table, her surprise quickly turned into a happy expression. "Wow, Josh, why are you here?" "Oh, well..." After looking a bit embarrassed, Josh glanced at me. "Actually, we've been dating for about half a year now and we've decided to get married. He came here today to let our parents know about it." Thinking that I should tell my own family, I told my sister the circumstances on behalf of Josh. At that moment, my sister's face visibly turned into a scowl. "I see. I'm tired, so I'm going to bed. Good night." With that, she rushed into her room and slammed the door shut. Wow, that was so unpleasant. I looked at Josh with a troubled expression, wondering if I had made him uncomfortable, but "I'm not bothered by it." He assured me with a smiling face, so I was relieved. Let me clarify for my sister's sake, she's not usually like that. Maybe she had some dissatisfaction with my marriage or cohabitation. However, even our parents didn't show any problems, so what on earth was my sister so dissatisfied with? Unable to understand my sister's feelings, I was still wondering whether I should ask her directly even after Josh left. As I was about to go to the bath, I ran into her in the hallway. I was at a loss for words as she glared at me with a devilish intensity. "I can't believe you're marrying Josh. I've always loved him too. I'll never forgive you for this." With the rage of a demon, she stomped away, leaving me stand at her unexpected confession. Seriously? She was in love with Josh? This is turning into a daytime drama, I thought, holding my head in my hands. After a night's sleep, or to be precise, a night of tossing and turning without sleep, I came up with an answer. Is there any problem with my sister loving my fiancé? After all, our marriage has already been decided. If Josh loved my sister, it would be a different story, but that's not the case. More importantly, if she's loved him since we were kids, she should have told her feelings to Josh sooner. It was my sister's fault for not expressing her feelings, and it was absurd to blame me. I could see her becoming more hostile to me, but as a big sister, I'll just let it roll off me. Although the situation is quite heavy, I decided to take an optimistic view and let it go. However, I was still unsure whether to tell Josh about this or not. It's because my sister's feelings would be revealed to Josh. But if I don't tell him, he would have to endure unpleasant feelings every time he comes to our house without knowing why. Considering him as a party involved, I decided to tell him everything. Tell me if anything happens. I might not be able to do much, but Josh is worried about me. True, it's a sister's issue. If my sister seems about to grab me, I might use you as a shield. Hey, don't joke around. Well, like this, we both decided not to think too much. Neither of us had any intention of changing our decision to marry, and it wasn't a matter of convincing my sister to understand. So it became, we have no choice but to let it be. That was our choice. After that, As expected, my sister's hostility towards me intensified at all once. On the first day when I was going to take a shower after she used it, the bathroom was messy because she didn't clean up. Haha, this isn't a big deal. There's always the shower. Honestly, I can even afford to joke about how cute my little sister is for doing such a modest and shabby prank. However, having my makeup and wallet hidden before going to work was quite a blow. I was like, I don't have time to be on a treasure hunt in the morning. I desperately searched for them, trembling at the thought of the word late. Because of that, I barely made it to work on time twice in a weekend. You are not slacking off with your wedding coming up, are you? I was coldly eyed by my boss. I won't forgive her. No, I'm a big sister. I should forgive her. No, I won't. No. I was conflicted. At first, my parents didn't know about my sister's harassment, but after she started hiding valuables, they seemed to notice something was off. My mother, "Why are you doing such childish things?" scolded my sister. While the person in question seemed to think only about annoying. But the problem was my father. After my sister was born and my mother's health deteriorated, he took care of her, still a newborn baby, for a few weeks. He tended to dote on my sister more than me, or rather, he was biased towards her. In other words, his parenting experience made him feel like a mother. I can't say I don't understand his feelings. I also loved my sister, who grew up during tough times. Speaking of experiences where there was a difference made between my sister and me, maybe it was when I said I wanted to go to an amusement park as a child, and she made a fuss that the aquarium was better. My father decided, "Then let's go to the aquarium." I remember my mother was the kind of person who would make sure if I'm okay with his decision. My mother would ask me, "Are you sure it's okay not to go to the amusement park?" So honestly, I don't have any bitter memories of my father's favoritism towards my sister, but if my mother hadn't been like that, I would have felt quite inferior. Plus, at the time, my friends were also saying things like, "My sister gets more affection." So I didn't think much of it, just that there was a bias in love everywhere. Well, maybe it's my inherently optimistic personality. I'd love to see someone who can make me feel down. I would say things like that. But this time, my father clearly took my sister's side. Apparently, she was saying, "My sister stole my boyfriend." And in my father's mind, "He's the worst man who played both my daughters." He seemed to think of Josh as the villain. I could understand why he would side with her, thinking about what would happen to the sister who was dumped, while the elder sister could get married. In response to my father's thoughts, my mother said, "I don't see Josh as the kind of person who could do such a thing." She seemed skeptical. "No, that's not true," and listened to my opinion. My mother, who didn't take my sisters and my words at face value and looked at us fairly. But my father said, "I can't bear to see my poor sister who was dumped. Even my elder daughter was played with. I won't allow this man to take advantage of my beloved daughters. Wake up!" As if I was brainwashed by Josh. He doesn't listen to anything I say. A good father who loves us sisters deeply, even though there is a bit of difference in his affection. But this time I wished he would listen to me a little more. It was very troublesome that they were starting to oppose my marriage, so I decided to push through. To put it simply, I decided to leave home earlier than planned and live with Josh. In other words, if the problem lies with my sister, it's better to distance myself from her. If I'm not at home, I won't be harassed. The problem ends there. In fact, that decision seemed to be correct, and our life together passed peacefully. As days went by, my mother said, "I think your side of the story is probably right, and you're an adult now, so do as you like. Live freely." And my father, although he seemed dissatisfied, surprisingly said nothing. He probably thought that even if Josh and I broke up, I would be pitiful, and he couldn't imagine Josh going to my sister. I guess he thought it was the best solution. I felt sorry for Josh, who had become such a villain, but there was no word from my problematic sister, so I thought everything was over. Then came the wedding day. As expected, my sister did not attend, and my father said, "It's not too late to reconsider your decision to marry," encouraging me to rethink marriage. "I've thought many times that I made mistakes by marrying your father. Marriage comes with all sorts of things, so be prepared." My mother smiled. Needless to say, "Really?" My father in the background was pale. Not everyone may have blessed us from the bottom of their hearts, but under the watchful eyes of our parents, we got married. That's about the next day. The chime of our home's intercom rang loudly. What's going on?" Josh and I jumped up. We hurriedly looked at the monitor, and to our surprise, my family was visiting us. "Dad, Mom, even Emily, what's going on?" I was surprised, and my younger sister glared at me with sharp eyes. I kept quiet, but I'm pregnant with Josh's child. You have to take responsibility. "What does this mean? Fortunately, you don't have a child yet. Here, Josh should take responsibility. You should break up. And Emily and Josh should get married. You should give Josh to her." While listening to my sister and father's claims, my mother looked confused and asked me, "What's going on?" At the end of my mother's gaze, Josh, who was still sleepy, had come to the front door following me. How? What? My child? Huh?" Finally, he seemed to wake up and shook his head vehemently at me. "No, it's not like that. We didn't do anything like that." His denial was so dramatic, like something out of a comic book. "I know." "Rather, you should stop because your panic is suspicious." I almost laughed but remained silent. "What do you mean by Josh's child? How many months pregnant are you?" 2 months. If Josh doesn't take responsibility, this child will be fatherless. That's pitiful, isn't it? 2 months? Startled by my sister's words, I exchanged looks with Josh. A big laugh from Josh and me. Confused parents not understanding the reason. My sister was, "What are you laughing at?" Flustered. "Well, yeah, right, 2 months ago." I started tearing up from laughing too much. "Emily, we had fun last time, didn't we?" "Eh? Yeah." My sister was momentarily flustered at Josh's sudden question. My parents didn't understand what Josh meant and glared at him with a look full of disgust. I was probably the only one who understood what he was trying to do. "By the way, Emily, how many abs do I have?" "Huh?" My sister looked blank. I was about to burst into laughter. Josh continued, "Do you remember how many abs I had 2 months ago? I accidentally lost my abs." Probably the only one who would describe his abs as if he had lost them is Josh. I'm laughing so much that I feel like I'm going to get abs myself. "What are you talking about, Josh?" The correct answer is 0. I was about to say that I knew it, but Josh, not minding my sister's puzzled face, solemnly confessed that he has no abs. Even my mom couldn't help but laugh at this. This may be a contest of who can make the other laugh the most. Question 2. You've seen my moles, right? How many do I have in total? 8? No, huh? Josh continued with his strange questions, and my sister seemed confused about how to react. Well, that's to be expected. Josh's skull was confused and amused my sister in this situation. Since she's had no physical contact with him, she can't answer any of his questions. If she slips up, that's a bonus. It's all just a game to him. Even though she could end it quickly by denying everything, he could have said, "I didn't do anything like that." Josh was enjoying asking persistent questions and seeing her unable to answer. In fact, my mother seemed to be starting to feel something was off. Isn't there something odd about their relationship? with the relationship between my sister and Josh and their attitudes. Well, of course, such conversations shouldn't be possible if they were really intimate. Moreover, it would be too embarrassing in front of parents. The very act of having such a conversation is proof that nothing actually happened. It's like Josh's own way of getting back at her by confusing and bewildering her. He was having so much fun with an innocent expression like a child who had gotten a new toy. What a scary man. I thought, if you can't play along with this kind of joke, you can't be Josh's wife, as I watched how my sister would react. She, who was thinking about the second question, like 10? Finally answered in a desperate tone. Buzz, sorry. The correct answer is, I don't even know. Even my father burst out laughing at this. At the same time, to hide his frustration at the laughter. Enough is enough, Josh. Don't you dare joke around after cheating my daughters on. I step in to stop my father, who looks ready to lunge at Josh. Wait, listen. You said the pregnancy was 2 months along, right? Considering the conception period, there's no way the child could be Josh's. Hey, what do you mean? My mother bites at my words. Can I say it? I glance at Josh, and with a deeply disgusted expression, he reluctantly nods. Wait, hold on. Can I say it? Can you? Oh yeah, I'll do it. Despite his bluff, he puffs out his chest. Mom and Dad, the truth is, during that time, I, was stung by a bee, in a very important place for a man. At this moment, everyone, even my sister, burst out laughing. Enough is the lies. There's no way you were stung there. My father, angry. My mother, laughing uproariously, clapping her hands. No, well, it's embarrassing, but it's true. It was hot, so I thought I'd cool off, and taking advantage of the fact that I couldn't be seen from outside, I opened the window and was relaxing in the nude when a bee flew in and stung me. Josh's face, even his ears, turned bright red in no time. I wanted to keep myself from laughing for Josh, who was revealing such an embarrassing story because of my family, but I just couldn't hold it back and burst out laughing. There's no way there's a man who's that embarrassing. No, such an embarrassing man actually exists, right here. Josh loudly retorts to my father's words, but it's not something to be so boastful about. That doesn't prove that the child in my belly isn't from Josh's seed. My sister, who was on the verge of losing her stance, joins the conversation as if she got a second wind. No, Emily, think about it. A bee, okay? Stung me in a very important place. Hey, Dad, imagine that. You're a man, so you understand, right? The pain of having such a vital area harmed. My sister falls silent at Josh's serious face. Seeing my father, who appears to have visualized the situation based on Josh's explanation, silently clutches his groin and looks down. Though my father tried to make a stern face in a hurry, it was clear to see that he was gradually starting to believe Josh's words. It's a really important, delicate place for a man. So it was tough, you know? I even called an ambulance. I was more embarrassed being in ambulance with you. I couldn't help but respond to Josh's story. I had a fever and it was tough. And, doing the deed in that state would be way too kinky. You can even check with the hospital that took care of me if you want. To him, who spoke in an almost inaudible voice, my mother laughed a lot. Josh, you used to have a habit of taking off your swimsuit when you played in our plastic pool, didn't you? Here, why don't you show me the place where you were stung? My mother, laughing hard, flails her arms and approaches Josh. Whoa! It's already healed, so there's no evidence here. I can't show you that. He tried to escape from my mother's hand, covering not his private area but his irrelevant chest. From what I saw, my mother seemed to fully trust him now. I felt relieved. though Josh didn't seem able to feel relieved in the same way. Well, I sympathize as a man. I don't think anyone would lie about such an embarrassing thing. There's no need to check with the hospital. At that moment, my father had kind eyes, as if respecting Josh's desperate pride. It's an expression I've never seen before. Ironically, it seemed that understanding was quicker from those of the same sex, due to where he was stung. I wonder if this is what they call a blessing in disguise. Amid all this, I said to my sister, who was standing in a daze, "You know, even if you lie to us like this, neither I nor Josh are going to get divorced. Rather, I think you're just becoming more and more miserable. You may not believe me when I say this, but I really want you to be happy. You're my only sister after all." At that moment, my sister's eyes flew open. "Shut up, shut up, shut up! I've had enough. I don't like Josh anymore if he's going to take your side." Josh strongly brushed off my sister's hand as she became emotional and tried to grab me. "I don't care if I'm not liked. I love Ava, and that's all that matters. I consider Emily to be a precious childhood friend and my sister-in-law. But I never have and never will see you as a lover. If you keep repeating such lies, I'll stand up to them with all my might. Because I am Ava's husband, I will protect Ava with all my strength." I was about to cry a little bit. He seemed very unlike the stupid man who had been stung by a bee and was saying nonsense like, "I might be done for. The world is my enemy." I even thought to myself, my husband is cool. My father, watching this, "Emily, if you are really pregnant, show us your medical records or something," he said. Hearing this line, it became clear that my parents had believed in Emily's pregnancy solely based on her worth, without any basis. I love my parents who believe in their children without question, but this time their kindness seemed to have backfired. My mother also said, "If you've lied, you need to apologize to both of them," urging my sister. My sister was biting her lip and shivering. "Enough! I don't care if nobody is on my side. I don't care if you regret it." With that, my sister left the scene with tears in her eyes. My father tried to follow her. Let her be. Let her cool her anger. But my mother stopped him and said that. 2 weeks passed after that. My sister was still insisting she was pregnant, and my mother forcibly took her to the gynecologist, but there were no signs of pregnancy. There was no possibility of illness, and she was diagnosed as a very healthy adult woman. My parents said, "We're sorry for the trouble we caused, and for doubting you. We should have trusted Josh, who we've known for a long time. Please take care of Ava. Apologize to Josh and to me. We are truly sorry for making you go through such a difficult time." They bowed their heads. To be honest, I don't blame my parents because I haven't told them about the deterioration of my relationship with my sister. Having parents who believe in their daughter without questioning her might be viewed in various ways by society, but it's also a fact that it's reassuring for the daughter. After all, there is no replacement for them, and they're my one and only precious parent. Everyone makes one or two mistakes in their life. This time, it just happened to be my parents, or to be precise, my father. I was once again a victim of his favoritism towards my sister, but considering the great favor they've done me by raising me so well, I think I'll forgive them. After all, without these parents, I wouldn't have grown up so happily, and I wouldn't have met Josh. My sister seemed to feel ashamed when her lie about being pregnant was exposed. "I don't need this family anymore," she yelled in a fit of anger and left the house. If this was before, my father, who was always lenient with my sister, would have gone after her, but this time he said, "It might be better for Emily not to return home for a while. It could be a good cooling-off period for her." And he didn't chase after her. My mother, she can't just brush off what she did as an outburst of love. If she can't bow her head and apologize sincerely when she comes back, we won't let her in the house. She said, I can't imagine my sister, who was so furious, apologizing to us sincerely. My mother thinks so too. In other words, this was effectively disowning her. 7 years have passed since then, and my sister bowed her head to my parents and us, and returned to her parents' house once. But in the end, she was really ostracized and kicked out. At first, my sister was very noble, but at the end of the year, she drank a lot of alcohol and caused a problem. She snuck into Josh's bed, who had gone to bed earlier, and said, "Aren't you tired of my sister yet?" and approached him. Josh, who thought he saw a ghost, screamed out, "Oh!" loud enough to draw complaints from the neighbors. Not only I, who was next to him, but also our parents jumped up at his voice, and the incident was revealed. The suspect, or rather, my sister, who was quite drunk. "Because it's frustrating to see you always get along with my sister. It's okay to spend his time a little with me, isn't it?" she blurted out. Of course, that's something we can't and won't do. This made me furious and told her to get her act together. Josh was scared like Chihuahua, and my parents, with an angry expression I had never seen before, disowned my sister. Especially my father, who was supposed to have adored my sister, expressed his disgust. "I don't remember raising a child who would attack a man in his sleep." I will never forget that. My sister, who had sobered up, apologized over and over again, but my father strongly rejected her, saying, "Actions that come out when you are drunk are your true feelings. I can't trust anything you say anymore." And my sister left our parents' house in tears. On the other hand, I found out about my first pregnancy around the time I had a turbulent New Year's Eve. Since then, I have been giving birth to children one after another. Now, at the age of 34, I am a mother of 4. 2 of them are twins, so I've only given birth 3 times. Because they are almost the same age, every day is like a festival. If kids were left alone, is this an art exhibition? The walls become so full of crayon scribbles that I sometimes run around the house with a cleaner in one hand with Josh on Sunday mornings. The youngest child is a little bit in the no phase, diffusing clothes, toothbrushing, going to the toilet, and so on. Giving me a hard time with all these refusals, but when I see the sleeping faces of my 4 angels, I forgive everything. My parents too, not only with their first grandchild, but also with the angels born one after another, seem to feel the same way and often come to our house to help with childcare. Josh is also supportive in childcare, thanks to which he constantly gets his hair pulled when he gives piggyback rides, and now he seems to be worried about the future of thinning hair, but he deals with it with a smile that says he can't help but find the children adorable. I won't tell him that it's okay to become bald. With his promotion and salary, he can now afford good hair growth treatments. It seems fun to see Josh struggling with baldness. After all, I want to see all kinds of appearances of the person I love, for better or for worse. It's a long way from being a quiet and calm house. It's too noisy to be lively, but I am very happy now.
I'm pregnant with your husband's child. I was speechless at my sister's sudden confession. So, I want a divorce. I'm going to remarry your sister. I'm sorry I stole your husband, a doctor earning $10,000 a month. Next to my sister, my husband was looking down at me with a serious face, and my sister's hand was tightly holding my husband's hand. I was so shocked that I couldn't speak. What's with that face? As usual, you are ugly. That's why your husband has a change of heart. From now on, you're going to live on your meager salary. Hearing my sister's loud laugh, I felt my heart cooling down. I'm the one who wants to say sorry. They probably don't know. I'm laughing in my heart without telling them about my real sister's terrible misunderstanding. My name is Jessica. I've been married to Brandon for 3 years. I met my husband in a university tennis club. Tennis was my only stress relief in my suffocating university life, which was full of studying. Since the club itself was a cheerful activity, I often sweated on the tennis court in the campus, sacrificing my study time. You have nice form. The first one to talk to me was my husband. My husband, who was in a different faculty and didn't seem to be busy studying, always came to me first when I visited the club. I played tennis until high school. I quit playing seriously because of an injury. But you are good at it. It's completely different from me who is just playing. I can teach you. I think we're a great match. I believed such words, which seems like a typical pickup line from the bottom of my heart. In fact, I had never dated a man before and had hardly even had a proper conversation because I was always studying. I was completely taken in by my husband's positive attitude. I had no idea of the hard times awaiting me 5 years later. After graduating from the university, we got married. Although it would be a lie to say that we had no fights or breakups during our school years. I always forgave my husband's sloppy behavior, and our relationship dragged on until graduation. I'm sure I'll become a good husband. How much I believed in his proposal was, I wonder. Now it seems doubtful, but at that time I still had trust in my husband. There were feelings of a 5-year-old rotten relationship. He's not a bad person at heart, and I accepted his proposal with a rather light feeling. We both started working. I had a strong desire to work, and my husband didn't oppose me going out. Rather, I think he was encouraged me to go for it. In fact, with the income of 2 people, we had quite a household income. Having this much economic freedom at a young age, I think we were blessed. We didn't have children for our jobs. It was still early in our careers, so we focused on setting up our lives first. I was climbing up the career ladder smoothly and having fulfilling days, but... Oh, what's this? My gaze inadvertently went to the smartphone that my husband had left in the living room. A message from an unknown name. Normally, I tried not to pry in his privacy, but my husband had a past of cheating. It was back in our student days, but then he was secretly communicating with a girl from another club. I entered my husband's birthday and easily unlocked his smartphone. I opened the messaging app and was shocked. As I feared, there were flirty exchanges with a particular woman recorded. I immediately confronted my husband. His confused state was like a monkey in the zoo. It's not like that. This was just a lapse in judgment. So, you admit it's cheating? You had a relationship with this woman? Well, that's... Let's make love at our usual hotel. Kisses. You're not young to send such a message. She's a high school graduate and a newcomer, so... Summing up my husband's story, he basically cheated with a new female employee. My husband was her trainer. It's a common story, but I wonder what kind of education he was giving her. I'm really sorry. I swear, I won't make such a mistake again. In the end, I forgave my groveling husband. This has been happening since our university days. I can't help but sigh at my sloppy husband's attitude. Unlike our student days, we had too many obligations. If we were to divorce, we would have to report it to our families, friends, and co-workers and would make them disappointed. Honestly, it was easier to give my husband a harsh scolding than to do such troublesome things. I made him to write an apology letter. If he made the same mistake again, he wouldn't get away with it. That was a promise. That's how our married life continued, barely surviving several storms. One day, my father? It was sudden news of my father's death. According to my crying mother on the phone, he seems to have collapsed on the way home from drinking and was taken to the hospital. It appeared to be a stroke. My father's discovery was late, and on top of that, last night was in the middle of winter, so he unfortunately never came back to life. He was 60 years old, just before retirement. I took care of all the funeral arrangements. My mother cried all the time and wasn't in any condition to manage. With the support of relatives and a hollow-out mother, I barely managed to complete the funeral proceedings. I felt sorry for the inconvenience to the workplace, but my colleagues and superiors never complained. I'll never forget about it. One issue was to deal with my sister. I have a sister 2 years older than me. Her name is Anna. After graduating from high school, my sister left our parents' home, so I hadn't seen her for nearly 10 years. The circumstances of her leaving were problematic. My sister had always been a troublemaker, causing trouble for our parents. She had been involved with the police more than once or twice. Her relationships with men were particularly unrestrained, and she had been involved with multiple adult men since junior high school. Some of these men were married. So of my sister's behavior, my parents scolded her all the time. "Live a decent life. Don't ruin your own life." Although it was sound advice, it didn't seem to resonate with my sister at all. Finally, it was discovered that she had secretly given money from our house to a male host, which led to a huge fight with both of our parents, especially our father. Get out! It's not surprising that my father declared this inheritance. I don't even think of you as my daughter anymore. In response to his words, my sister also retorted and stormed out of the house. Who would want to come back to such a poor and gloomy house? As she said, my sister never showed her face to us again until my father passed away. Even though I had to inform her of our father's death. Her cell phone number was still the same, so I had to send her a short message informing her of our father's death on the same day. My mom said, "There's no need for that." My mom was angry, but I couldn't ignore my sister. There was no contact from my sister until just before the funeral. If she doesn't come, it's fine then. Just when I was thinking, my sister finally showed up at the post-cremation meal where we were breaking our fast after mourning. My sister's face, with her makeup thicker by 3 times than before, faced us after about 10 years. So you got married? Without much upgrading to our late father, my sister seemed interested in the fact that I had brought my husband. My husband, who had managed to participate in the ceremony during the break from his work, had been timid meek as a lamb until my sister showed up. He's not the type of person who can move briskly in ceremonial situations. I hadn't missed his mattering. I wish this would end soon. Your husband isn't bad looking, is he? What, did you get to know him at work? We met through a club in the college. Our workplaces are completely different. You hooked a good one. You were always studying, right? Well, if you could get a man with a decent education, that's good. You don't seem to be struggling with money. Well, since one of us is a doctor, the salary is decent. We both work. But more importantly, you should properly greet our father. A doctor. My sister's eyes seemed to plot something. She may have even licked her lips. My husband, subjected to her snake-like gaze, was simply flustered. We disbanded on that day. My sister, who said she would contact me soon, didn't contribute any condolence money in the end. I have no intention of following up on my mother's lament, unfilial child. Things started to get strange after about 6 months. Although the sadness of losing my father had not yet healed, I had almost completely forgotten about the days of the funeral and my sister. On the other hand, it seems that my sister remembered it well. About my husband. Brandon? After work, I saw a familiar figure near the station. The navy suit was the one I had just cleaned for yesterday. What surprised me was the sight of the woman next to him. They were holding hands, looking friendly. Again, my husband's bad habits. As the flames of anger flared up, I realized my husband's crime was not just that. This time, I was taken aback more than angry. Next to my husband, flouting her miniskirt, was my sister Anna, holding my husband's hand. My husband cheating with my own sister? I blurted out involuntarily, then decided to follow them. If this is truly an affair, I will not forgive my husband this time. I've been tormented by my husband's womanizing many times. But if it's with my own sister, it's beyond a joke. Moreover, the occasion where they met face to face was at my dad's funeral. I'll definitely catch them in the act. I gritted my teeth and focused on not losing sight of them. As expected, they headed towards the hotel district. It was still daytime. My husband was supposed to be at work. I wonder what kind of excuse he used to leave the office. They walked past numerous hotels, glued even closer together. At one of the hotels where they finally stopped, they started kissing. Disgusting. This is the first time I have witnessed my husband's infidelity. Then, they went into the hotel in front of them. I called my husband's smartphone after letting the two of them off the hook for a while holding back my nausea. After an irritating wait, my husband finally picked up the phone. "What is it? I'm working." "There's something I really need to check with you. Who are you with right now?" "Who? You know." "Of course. I'm with my colleagues and boss. We have an important meeting coming up." "Oh, so you have important meetings at the Love Hotel, Jewelry Resort? Quite a flippant name, isn't it?" "How do you—" "I also know that my sister is with you. You're the one who need to explain. Just wait there with my sister." After I had an ace up my sleeve, Brandon's voice seemed muffled and raspy. Finally, after checking with my sister, he informed me of the room number. "All right." I braced myself and stormed into the hotel. I explained the situation to the receptionist and paid for another room. After all this humiliation he's put me through, I won't show any mercy to my husband. When I opened the door to room 402, my husband was waiting there with a pale face. He was already dressed in a gown, having taken off his suit. My sister had the same gown as my husband and mocking expression on her face. The pitiful wife showed up. She started smoking, showing no sign of remorse. On the contrary, she seems to be enjoying the situation. Just like half a year ago, her makeup was heavily plastered, like paint. First, I confronted my sister, who was making a creepy face. "Anna, what are you thinking? You knew he's my husband, and you laid your hands on him, didn't you?" "Well, it's frustrating. After being kicked out of the house, I've had a really hard time. I was even abandoned by the host I was sponsoring. I didn't have a single thing going well for me. Despite all that, You're living a happy married life. You left home because of your selfishness, right? You troubled our parents till the end. And now you're trying to ruin my family too? The chaos was there from the start. I heard from Brandon. It's truly pitiful because you always say harsh things. He doesn't even have a moment of peace at home. That's why I've been comforting him. Don't say whatever you want. This is a problem within our family. So, you're just not satisfying your husband, are you? A boring woman like you. I'm different in that respect. I'm satisfying him. That's why we've been going out for half a year now. You're lying. It's been since right after my father's funeral. Understand me, Jessica. I was at my limit too. You were always nagging me and there was hardly any marital affection. We haven't even been intimate for over a year now. The husband exposing the couple's shame in front of his wife's sister. Although embarrassing as it was to the point of crying, I retorted to my husband. The reason we couldn't stay as a couple was because of your womanizing. Have you forgotten your promise? That you would never betray me again? And on top of that, how come it's my sister? Besides, right after my father's funeral. Hey, stop bullying Brandon. He's not yours anymore, right, Brandon? My sister, who had interjected, seemed to be whispering something to my husband. He lifted his head, which had been lowered, and turned to me with determination. Now, I was the one taken aback. Jessica, please, divorce me. We're having a baby. What? You heard it. I'm pregnant now. Of course, the father is Brandon. We've been making love almost every week since then. And this belly is the fruit of that. While speaking, her sister lovingly stroked her belly. I was left speechless. This was no accident, but a deliberate act. From the start, my sister intended to steal my husband, and my husband also intended to end their marriage. That's why they didn't use contraception. They went out of their way to show me the baby in her belly. Too bad. You don't stand a chance. He's mine now. He's leaving you and marrying me. Right, Brandon? Yeah, let's be happy together. No, the three of us, with our baby. I will do my best. You've been dumped. Truly, my condolences. There goes your elegant lifestyle. From now on, that will be mine. After my sister's laughter echoed, I left the hotel room. To be honest, I don't remember how I made it home. I vomited 3 times in the toilet at home. As I rushed up my stomach acid, I couldn't stop crying. I was more upset about being betrayed than about losing my husband. My husband and sister trampled on my humanity. Moreover, they made use of the baby. I cried all night and greeted the morning with a drained body. From that day on, my husband did not come home. There was no doubt that he had moved into my sister's place. Probably soon, he would pack up and leave. At that time, he might bring divorce papers at me. Along with a wedding ring we chose together 5 years ago. The worst day of my life. Nevertheless, I couldn't afford to take a day off from work. There were people who depended on me. Above all, now, only my work is my anchor. Holding back nausea and tears, I gritted my teeth and headed to the workplace. A week later, while I was working as usual at the workplace, my husband and sister showed up in front of me. I was not very surprised, but 2 of them seemed to be quite shocked. As my sister sat in a chair for a patient, holding her belly, she stared at me in my white coat in astonishment. Why are you here? Because this is an obstetrics and gynecology department and I am on duty today. The doctor who usually examines you is off due to some circumstances. You are a doctor? But why? Brandon was supposed to be the doctor. My sister looked puzzled, looking back and forth between my husband and me. I found it funny and explained it to her properly. You must have misunderstood, sister. I am the one who is a doctor. I worked hard to get into medical school. But at the funeral, Brandon said he was a doctor. You got yourself a high-educated husband. I only said, if one person is a doctor, the salary would be decent. You misunderstood that. But Brandon said he was a doctor. As my sister's gaze pierced him, my husband, who seemed to have come along as an escort, only turned pale. He repeated clumsy excuses like a fish washed up on the beach. No, I was actually thinking of talking to you seriously, but then you mentioned getting pregnant. So you lied about being a doctor just to impress my sister and sleep with her. How pathetic. You're not a doctor. You're a low-paid salesman. Well, that's... What do you mean, low-paid? What about the $1,000,000 a month? We've already started looking at luxury apartments. And we've even contacted a regular car dealer to get a car. I've already maxed out my credit card and designer bags and shoes. Why would you waste money like that? And why is Jessica even at this hospital? She's supposed to be working at a different hospital. That's why I brought her here. When I took time off for my father's funeral, the doctor from this hospital helped me out multiple times. Now, she has a situation, so I'm returning the favor. I've been working hard even while you two were having cheating on me. Jessica. Listen, this is the end of us. I'm fed up with you. Go ahead and divorce or remarry, but make sure to pay me alimony. Wait, Jessica. I admit I was wrong. I'll change my ways this time. Let's forget about the divorce for now. What are you saying? Remember when you cheated with a girl from your office, you promised me that if it happened again, you'll pay whatever amount of alimony I demanded. I showed my husband's written pledge I had taken with my smartphone camera at that time, completed with his signature and thumbprint. My husband let out a silent scream. At least 5,000,000 yen. No, considering it was right after my father's funeral, I could even add a bit more. I'll contact a good lawyer. You two can wait and tremble. Wait! Does that mean I have to pay alimony too? Are you going to demand it from me? Of course. That's what it means to steal your sister's husband. Don't worry. I'll give you a grace period until the baby is born. That's my moral obligation as an obstetrician. But instead, make sure you pay up after the baby is born. I'll have you give up all your designer bags and shoes. And I'll add the funeral offering for my father. You'll apologize on your knees in front of his grave. I glared at my sister and walked away. Started the regular examination. As soon as I instructed her to get on the bed, my sister fled the examination room. Perhaps she was afraid of me wearing rubber gloves. My husband, who remained, seemed to want to say something, but he meekly retreated under the cold stare of the nurses. Thinking that I wouldn't have to see my husband's face anymore, I felt truly liberated. And then, another half a year later, it seems that my sister had a baby safely at a different obstetrics and gynecology clinic. Regardless of what my sister has done, the newborn baby is innocent. Knowing it was a healthy baby girl, I felt relieved deep down. But as for my sister herself, it's a different story. I don't feel a shred of pity for her. As I declared, after the baby was born, I sent my sister a letter demanding alimony. The total is 5.3 million yen. Of course, 300,000 yen is for the condolence money for my father's funeral. I plan to deliver it to my mother. As for my husband, no, my ex-husband, life seems to be quite tough with the alimony he owes me. His workplace also, due to the rumors of his affair, he had no choice but to resign. It seems difficult for him to get rehired as a full-time employee. I heard he's juggling temp jobs now. As for who spread the rumors of the affair at his former workplace, I think it's best left unsaid. Furthermore, through the grapevine, I heard he hasn't gotten over his womanizing ways. He seems to be angering my sister by hitting on any woman close at hand. At this rate, they seem like a suitable couple, and I feel truly refreshed being able to break up with my ex-husband. Now I'm dedicating myself to my work as an obstetrician. Today, too, mothers-to-be with big bellies are waiting for my help.
Thanks to our second son being gone, we have the chance to meet like this again. The words I heard from my room were far from appropriate for a real parent, my husband. I could feel my heart growing cold at the crude laughter intermingled in the conversation between my husband and our eldest son's wife. Even our normally mild-mannered eldest son, who was watching the screen next to me, was trembling quietly in anger. When they come back, we need to have a proper discussion. Yes, I would like to hear their excuses. As relatives were gathering, it was rather convenient that they had prepared incontrovertible evidence against themselves. By this point, everyone present was on my and our eldest son's side. Together with their furious relatives, we were eagerly awaiting the return of the two who were soon to be on the hot seat. My name is Catherine. I am turning 64 this year. I raised two sons and thought I had built a very ordinary family. I had only recently learned that such common happiness could easily crumble. I was in deep grief after losing my second son in a car accident. Why did Mike have to be in an accident? How long are you going to keep moaning about what's already happened? Despite our son leaving this world due to an unexpected accident, my husband threw such cold words at me. Seeing my husband without a single tear, even though the funeral was coming up, I felt my heart grow colder. At the signal from our eldest son coming to pick us up, I heard a car horn from outside. I put the pet cat in the cage and headed towards the entrance. I never thought Mike would leave us so soon. You too, Tyler. You're both a miserable lot, father and son. Isn't it natural? Rather, why do you seem so unfazed? You're planning to send Mike off with a smile, aren't you, father-in-law? That's right. That's exactly what I mean. Even in the car, my husband's attitude remained unchanged, laughing out loud. Our eldest son's wife also looked at him, smiling. Even in normal times, these two often say things that are quite provocative without any hesitation. Normally, I would let it slide since I understood their personalities from long-term association, but today I couldn't. It was unbearable to think of the feelings of our eldest son, who was fond of his younger brother, hearing such heartless words from his own father and even his wife. I slapped my husband's knee, who was sitting next to me, to point it out. Enough! Despite the family tragedy, I can't believe you can laugh like that. Ouch. Are you telling me to put on a face that looks like it's about to grow mold? I'm asking you to have some decency. You're not a child. Don't speak so loud at the funeral. Yeah. You're always a nagging wife, no matter how old you get. Not being able to resist answering back to my words, my husband grumbled childishly, appearing irritated. Feeling the tension in the car atmosphere, I sighed, looking out of the window, thinking it was pointless to talk any further. I understood, as my husband said, that it's not necessarily good to cry and mourn. That's why I believed what we could do was simply to send off our second son quietly, hoping for his peaceful rest. Despite my only wish being that, these two wouldn't even allow it, and were about to cause an unthinkable incident. I greeted my relatives whom I hadn't seen for a while at the venue, chatting about old times with those who had loved my second son and made the effort to come from afar. Tears naturally flowed again. This whole situation is really uncomfortable. Mike was such a sweet and good boy, it feels like he just became an adult. Thank you for your concern. Every time our second son's name was mentioned, I bowed deeply and expressed my gratitude. Ignoring me, my husband seemed unrepentant even about his attitude in the car, and was chatting loudly about golf and other fun things with a relative he hadn't seen in a while. How about it? Would you like to go out and play together next time? Kyle, isn't today your son's funeral? I'm not saying we should go out today, right? That would be downright bad luck. How many times do I have to tell you to stop before you're satisfied? In my quiet but firm voice, I scolded my husband, who only seemed to think about himself. It felt like I was reprimanding an unruly child. Seemingly irritated at being admonished yet again, my husband suddenly showed his disgruntlement, dismissively gesturing with one hand. I questioned if he really understood what day it was today. Was my husband's attitude evoking such doubt? I wondered when things had gotten to this point, a crease forming between my brows. Had he gone insane from the shock of her second son's departure from this world? Speaking of Jessica, has been doing the same thing. She compares me and Dad every time we talk at home. Is that so? My first son's words sent a shiver of unease through my heart. I wanted to believe that there was some reason behind my husband's behavior, perhaps stubbornness from growing older, but Tyler's disheartening words caused me to involuntarily glance at the two of them. Despite being quieter than before, they seemed cheerful, continuously grinning as they chatted. Seeing this, I shook my head. You're right, these do seem too close. Right, but Dad's 65. He wouldn't get any weird ideas about his son's wife. Yes, you're right. With their age gap, he wouldn't do something so disgraceful. As we shared a small, half-hearted laugh, we continued our conversation. Perhaps we were both silently hoping, reassuring each other that it was that case. Regardless of our anxieties, the pair continued to chat away happily. When I went to the restroom during the funeral, I saw my husband headed toward the exit. Following him, I found Jessica by his side, about to step outside. Hey, where are you two going? Huh? Oh, it's you. Jessica said she wasn't feeling well, so I thought I'd let her get some fresh air. I see. Are you okay, Jessica? Yes, I think I'll be okay if I just rest a bit. After watching the pair go outside, I returned to my seat and whispered to Tyler. He seemed unaware of her ill health and was visibly surprised when he learned they had gone outside. Oh, so that's why he borrowed the car keys. By car? Where could they have gone? He might have been considerate of me, given my condition. It must have been hard for him to bring it up. Pointing at his eyes, now swollen from crying, the eldest son said so. Could those two be thinking of being considerate? Even though I thought this was a bit far-fetched, I accepted it at the moment and didn't dwell on it further. However, as the two of them didn't return, even when it was time for the meal after the funeral, our faces started to cloud over with a bad premonition. What happened? No good. I tried calling them, but I couldn't reach either of them. Well, I hope nothing serious happened. The eldest son tried calling them, but it seems he couldn't reach either of them. I also sent them a text, but there was no reply. The eldest son's car hadn't returned either, and each time a relative asked about their whereabouts, we were at a loss for words. Was she feeling that bad? Maybe they went to the hospital. If that's the case, I think they should have at least contacted us. They're not pets. They'll come home eventually. Pet? Oh, I wonder how our cat is doing. While chatting with the relatives, I suddenly remembered our pet cat left at home alone. Taking out my smartphone, I activated the pet camera to check on it, and for some reason, the cat was out of its cage and someone's voice could be heard. Huh? Hearing the unexpected voice, I initially thought a burglar had broken in and my blood ran cold. However, the voice that casually picked up our pet cat, when listened to carefully, was one we were very familiar with. Jessica, and isn't that Dad's voice too? What does that mean? Are they back at our house? I exchanged glances with my eldest son and then stared at the screen in confusion. When I increased the volume coming from the smartphone, an unthinkable conversation could be heard. The kitty is so cute!
can't we take it back with us?
What's the point in keeping such an old cat? I'll get you a cuter kitten.
Yay! I love you, father-in-law.
Just as I heard this sickly sweet voice, the edge of my bed, visible on the screen, shook, and a creaking sound was heard. With my mind going blank, I just quietly listened to the two's conversation. Taking advantage of the fact that no one else was listening, the two were freely exchanging cruel words about me, our eldest son, and our second son.
I really struggle with formal ceremonies like that.
My nagging wife lacks class too, always on my case.
She really scolded you, poor Kyle.
Right, but thanks to our second son being gone, we got another chance to meet like this. Following those inconsiderate words from a supposed parent, the crass laughter echoed. I felt a cold sensation in my chest. Next to me, our usually mild-mannered eldest son seemed to be quietly shaking with rage. That's awful. Is that something a father should say? Maybe it's better not to think of him as a father anymore. Surpassing both anger and disbelief, my mind was eerily quiet. When I looked up, the relatives gathered at the dining table were chatting at their leisure. I could no longer think of anything, so I turned the volume of my smartphone to the maximum and drew everyone's attention.
Hey, what on earth is she doing? Sneaking out of the funeral and doing such things with his son's wife.
So even her sickness was a lie. Did he go to such lengths just to be alone with her?
Turning up the volume, the unusual conversation of the two silenced all chatter, and everyone's eyes were fixed on me. The somber mood disappeared somewhere, and everyone stared at the small smartphone screen until the nonsensical conversation between the two ended.
If there's another unfortunate accident, I can come to see you again. Maybe it will be Tyler next time.
Before that, it's gotta be my nagging wife, right? With her age, it should happen pretty soon. All the relatives were shocked by the two who, far from mourning the misfortune of the second son, was joking about making a promise for the next meeting. There was a deep gasp, but no one spoke until their conversation ended. After letting the relatives see the entire conversation and actions of the two, I closed my smartphone just as we started discussing whether to return to the venue. Everyone's hearts seemed united in anger at the two whom trampled on our family. When they come back, we need to have a serious talk. Yes, I'd like to hear what kind of excuses they have. By now, everyone there was on the side of me and my eldest son. Along with the trembling relatives, we waited for the return of the two, who would soon find themselves walking on a bed of needles. They returned about 15 minutes later, taking about the same amount of time it takes to get from our house to the funeral hall. I looked at the two with contempt, realizing that they had been having such a conversation in my room until just now. We're back. Why the long faces, everyone? Welcome back. I wonder where you've been. I was worried because you were late. I told you before, didn't I, that Jessica wasn't feeling well, so we stepped outside. Oh, Jessica, are you feeling better now?
Yes, I'm perfectly fine now. I'm sorry for worrying you.
I encouraged my daughter-in-law, who is waving at me with a frivolous smile, to sit across from me. I sigh as I look at my husband, who naturally takes a seat next to her. As soon as they sit down, all the relatives turn towards us at once. I started asking them questions one by one, as the two looked uncomfortable and a bit surprised. What have you been doing all this time?
We were out there until Jessica felt better.
Out there? In a family restaurant. Really? Then where's the receipt? What are you suspecting me of all this time? My husband was the first to raise his voice at my pointed questions. Glaring at me with a sour look on his face, he said as if he had no reason to be suspected. However, having heard their conversation just a moment ago, I had no hesitation left in me. Did you really spend all this time at a family restaurant? That's what I've been saying. I threw away the receipt. Then what did you eat? How about you, Jessica?
Mother-in-law, isn't that too harsh? What on earth do you think we've done?
At my daughter-in-law's words, my face twitched and I was at loss for words. She covered her mouth with her hand and spoke as if she were about to cry. Who is the cruel one here? I wanted to scream at her to think about it with her hand on her own heart. Taking a deep breath with the relatives watching, I pointed at the sleeve of her clothing, ready to deliver the final blow to the two who continued to play dumb. Oh, Jessica, there's some cat hair on your sleeve. Whose is it, I wonder?
This is that.
It's probably a stray cat's.
Yes, it must have struck when I saw and petted it earlier. That's not it, isn't it? That's supposed to be our cat's hair. It got stuck now, didn't it? I take out my smartphone and launch the pet camera app that I had been using earlier. It's convenient since the app also has a recording feature. I show the playback of my daughter-in-law lifting her cat right before their eyes. Then I replay the disgraceful conversation the two had been having all this time, at a volume in the same place. Finally understanding the meaning of the cold stares from the relatives, their faces instantly turn pale.
You knew everything and put on this charade?
Yes, it was funny how you two kept playing dumb. You're terrible, mother-in-law. This is an invasion of privacy. I don't want to hear that from someone who went into someone else's room and enjoyed themselves with someone else's husband. When they found out their lie had been exposed, they began yelling like children. I kept my cool and consistently pointed out their misconduct. The one who finally reached their limit was the eldest son due to their lack of guilt. He slammed the table vigorously and began to accuse the two with a stern, low voice.
How dare you two do something so disrespectful during a family funeral?
No, it's just that mother-in-law trapped us.
What do you mean no? Everything you two said was overheard here.
At the eldest son's words, the relatives around them nodded in agreement. No one here would defend the two who had blurted out that they hoped for an accidental incident to happen to me or my eldest son just so they could meet alone. When I pointed this out, the two who finally understood the meaning of the surrounding gaze glared at my eldest son with annoyance.
Hey, did you purposely prepare all this to hang us out?
Not at all, just a coincidence. I was just trying to check on our cat Ash, and you two just happened to be in the frame. Even so, it's cruel to reveal it to everyone in a place like this. I know, I never thought there would be people who would do such a thing in a place like this. Plus, I'm supposedly a terrible wife, right? While repeating my husband's word, I glanced at him. Perhaps realizing he was in the wrong, my husband stopped defending my daughter-in-law and fell silent. My daughter-in-law also tried to escape by pretending to cry and hurling insults at me, but no one was willing to lend her an ear.
That's enough. I can't continue being a family with someone who can do something like this so easily.
What? You're saying we're getting a divorce?
Obviously.
Tyler said this quietly to the final quiet Jessica. She tries to make excuses again in a panic, but Tyler no longer pays her any attention. I cough to get the attention of my husband, who is trying to console Jessica by patting her shoulder, as if it's someone else's problem. Do you think you're not involved?
Huh?
On the day we're saying goodbye to our son, you managed to do something like this and even tell outrageous lies, and you haven't even apologized until now.
I'm sorry.
It's fine. I don't need an apology that's only on the surface. We should also get a divorce. My words made my husband turn pale instantly. How could he think that he would be fine? My husband, who has never taken care of his surroundings properly, will probably struggle if there's no one to take care of him. I turned my back on my husband, who was making excuses and apologizing, and I opened the door of the room. I don't want people who are about to become strangers to stay here any longer. Please leave.
I'll need the car keys back.
The daughter-in-law was looking at my husband with a troubled face, but there was nothing more he could do. Encouraged by the relatives, the two of them went outside with their heads down. I'll introduce you to the lawyer at our company. My son is a police officer. Call him any time if anything happens. They were truly shameless at the younger son's funeral, so that they could hear the relatives gave us reassuring words to the back of the two being driven out. With nowhere to turn, after the funeral, we had the two stamp the divorce papers. Afterward, the former daughter-in-law supposedly went to her real parents for consolation when discussing alimony during the divorce. She seemed to have tried her best to portray herself as pitiful as she was then, but of course her parents were completely put off. I heard she is now working a part-time job day and night to pay the alimony. As for my ex-husband, he had apparently been pouring his savings into the former daughter-in-law and had even dipped into his own savings. He asked to give our house to me as a form of alimony, and I asked him to leave the house without a penny to his name. And so the house became mine as a substitute for alimony from my ex-husband. However, especially in my room where there were unpleasant memories of my ex-husband and the former daughter-in-law, I couldn't possibly continue to live in, so I decided to sell the house and move to a pet-friendly apartment. Now without the disrespectful ex-husband, I'm living a leisurely life with my pet cat Ash. It seems that I was more stressed out by my ex-husband than I thought, and living alone, doing whatever I want with my cat is much more comfortable than before. After the divorce, my son occasionally comes to visit. My son also seems to be able to live a calm life after the divorce, and he told me that he's doing better than before. Recently, there's also good news. He told me that he's about to get a promotion at work. We decided to go out to eat to celebrate, but we happened to run into my ex-husband. He was completely different from before, looking like a quiet old man with the hunched shoulders. He was so different from the time he used to give us a hard time. I wouldn't have known it was my ex-husband at first glance. He didn't have any spirit in his eyes and approached me with a surprised look after he saw us.
Hey, there was someone else living in our house. What's going on?
Our house? It's certainly not your house anymore.
Did you sell it? How could you do that?
My ex-husband raised his voice at me in his old manner with a hoarse voice. He might have gone to the house he used to live in. I don't know whether he wanted to get the house back or was planning to coax me into forgiving him, but looking at his current attitude, I still couldn't think that he was remorseful. Blocking my son who was glaring at him, I said to the worn-out him, "After all, I can't sleep in a room where my husband and daughter-in-law were getting along. I don't need such a house." As I said that dismissively, my ex-husband had a look as if he came to his senses, quickly turned on his heel and left. Had he already forgotten what he had done? It felt like he had put a damper on our celebration, but we picked ourselves up and started walking on a sunny afternoon again.